you transform your kitchen scraps into something beautiful shades of, tones of color, and how you can create those first set of colors for yourself to basically start your journey if you're a newbie, or let's say if you've already started, if you want to just refresh whatever you have learned in your natural diet, in a natural diet journey. So before moving forward, just I would like two or three people to volunteer, and I'll just ask few questions, and if you can, just tell me the answers of it. So who would like to volunteer? Any two people from the audience? Yeah, Gunjan, I see Gunjan's hand. So I'll ask a question. So name any one natural color that inspires you. You can unmute yourself and you can answer the question.
Turmeric.
Okay. Anyone else? You can just tell randomly. No need to think of what color, it would be wrong or right.
Palash.
Yeah.
Marigold.
Someone tells blue. Yes. So the colors that you told, turmeric, palash, blue, all these colors come from a certain source. Palash is a flower. Turmeric is a root. It's basically a plant that grows inside the soil. Blue color is derived from a plant. So before moving further into what colors does it gets extracted from, so there are different, apart from plants, there are different things from which natural colors can be extracted. And before natural colors came, there were synthetic colors. Before natural colors came into practice, and before synthetic colors, natural colors were practiced a lot in ancient times. You would see traditional artisans practice a lot with natural colors like madder roots, like turmeric, indigo. You've heard a lot during ancient civilizations in Egypt, India, and China, and dating back to and it was 1850 when synthetic colors came, and it took over all the natural dye industry because of its various color components, and it could create a range of colors that natural colors couldn't. But now, after people are trying to understand that synthetic colors are causing harm to the environment, and it's now high time to go back to the natural colors and leave those synthetic colors. So yeah, so we need to go back to where our origin was, natural colors, and identify its importance and know its importance of why whatever you wear on your skin really matters. Be it whatever, like be it handlooms or be it in terms of colors. So let's say, because every color has its own property, it has its own, let's say if it is turmeric is antiseptic, it's healing, it's good for your skin. If it's madder roots, it has certain qualities that is good for your skin. If it is indigo, it cures your skin. If someone has cut on their skin, they apply indigo and it cures the cuts. So each dye was a type of Ayurvedic ingredient in historical times and also now. And people used to worship it. People used to worship some natural colors, but now it's coming back because they're understanding their importance. So this was about a bit about its history and bit about why we choose natural colors. So before we move forward, so whatever we will starting first with your kitchen, because kitchen is the easy source where you can put your hands on and experiment. So it could be like turmeric, it could be paprika, the red paprika that you use in a food. It could be coffee grounds, it could be tea leaves or tea powder. Then it could be any waste, sort of waste like rose petals. It can be marigold. It can be onion peels. It depends now. Whatever material I'm telling you, it can vary geographical wise. Let's say in some parts of world, onion is not red in color, it's white in color. So you might not get same tone or range of color as I'm telling in a different part of city you are living in. So geographically things change, but some common things does not change, like coffee is available, turmeric is available, paprika is available, tea is available in your nearby kitchen or nearby place. So these are good things, good places to start. Now, when I talk about these things, one confusion comes in mind is what is a dye and what is a stain? Because whenever we talk about turmeric, when we talk about coffee, people, tell that is it a dye or is it a stain? Will it stay for longer time or not? So a rough way to identify things, if it's a stain or if it's a dye, uh, anyone who wants to note it down, you can note it. Or if you want to, ask doubts later in the session, we'll be giving you Q&A round, so you can ask afterwards also. So, or you can take notes too. So whenever you want to test if it's a dye or a stain, rough assumption you can do is anything that observe the thing from a fresh to a dry state. Let's say you take a pomegranate. So whenever you see pomegranate peels, it's red in color. It's reddish brown in color. And whenever you observe it from the dry state, moving it towards the dry state, it changes into a little bit of, brown tones. But it has a tinge of red color in it. It has a tinge of redness in it, which means it is fastness. It is fast in nature, and it is a dye component, and it lasts for longer time. But as I said, it's like a experimentative thing. But in this way, you can identify if it's a dye or a stain. And let's say if I go to beetroot, beetroot is completely a stain. It's not a dye. Because beetroot, if you see in real form in nature, it's very pinkish red in color. But when you see the drying state of it, it turns into very dark brown, or it turns to completely brown. There is no pink tinge left in the beetroot after when it dries. So it doesn't have that fastness quality, and it will not last on your paper or on your fabric for longer pace of time. And it'll just vanish off. Of course, you can do it for fun with kids, just to experiment, but you can't use it for longer term in terms of your work or in terms of commercial purposes. So these are like different things. Now, when I talk about, so whatever I've talked about, it was all what was available in your kitchen. So now when I move out of my kitchen, if you've taken that first step, of going into your kitchen and just randomly picking up things, now whatever materials I tell you, of course, you can practice with that. But apart from that, yeah, like someone is telling about blueberries and strawberries. Of course, you can get with blueberries, but not with strawberries. So one fascinating thing in nature is it shows you very bright colors. The hibiscus is red, blueberries are beautiful, strawberries are red, or let's say dragon fruit is super beautiful of colors. But nature, that is magic of nature. It shows you that bright color, but it will not always give you that color in return when you dye it. And that comes when you practice it, and when you boil that certain material and certain source, it surprises you that something that is pink in nature, it's completely paling down when it is dyed with a fabric or with paper. That's the magic part that happens. If you see, let's say blueberries give color, but strawberries does not give color, depending on depending, of course, on the geographical part. Let's say where you're sourcing the blueberries and strawberries from. But most blueberries tend to give color on the fabric and paper. So yeah, so apart from that, there are various roots. Like if you move out of your kitchen, there are various roots, there are various leaves, there are various flowers that tend to give color. Let's say if I talk about roots, one is madder roots, which is called as manjishta in Hindi, and in English it is called madder. And next is indigo. Of course, everyone knows it's like the most famous color and most lovable color in the natural, dye spectrum, because of its fascinating magic that happens from green to blue because of its oxidation process and everything. And there are various flowers like hibiscus, like rose, marigolds. Then there are different types of marigolds. So in marigolds, you would see a lot of varieties like yellow marigold, then orange marigold, and then red marigold. But every marigold species won't give you color or won't tend to give you that dye. It depends on what you choose properly. So let's say the red marigold mixed with the orange tinge will of course give you a more better concentrate of dye rather than a yellow marigold. And hibiscus also, if you move geographically wise, hibiscus has a lot of variety. One hibiscus you will see it blooms a lot. It blooms in multiple layers. There is one type of hibiscus that just blooms in a single layer. So there are various types of hibiscus. So in natural dyeing, it's always about experimentation. Of course, anyone and everyone can teach you, but then it's on you how you practice it. and how you take a note of it, how you measure the proportions of it, or what source have you used from which place. So always take a note. Let's say if you are using hibiscus in your dye journey, let's say. So note that this hibiscus was sourced from this place and it gave me this dye. Because it's not necessary, let's say if you're traveling to India and you want to explore again with hibiscus, it won't be same, might be not be same because of change of pH, because of change of the air quality, the water quality, everything changes and everything matters in your dye factor. So like these were common things. But with that, I'll share you a small presentation and then I'll move forward.
You guys, please feel free to ask any questions that you might have in the chat box.
Yeah.
Back to the question, by the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A session, just, 10 minutes before we wind up the meeting. So please feel free to add any questions you might have about natural dyeing in the comments or in the chat box below.
Is the screen visible to you?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay. So this is a short description about me, who I am, and also you can see a side picture here. That is a small composition that I made, like it's 2 years back during my when I was doing my job in a natural dye company. So you can see this composition is a mixture of kesuda. So it's done on paper, not on fabric. It's done on a handmade paper. It's a mixture of kesuda, that is flame of forest, also called as palash. Then there is pomegranate, that you see the brown tone here. Then the pink is sappanwood, also called as logwood, I think so. Then the blue one is blue pea flower, that's called aprajita in Hindi. And rose is the purple one. And other magic that you see of black, blue, or the gray tones, that is a mix of mordants. So I'll come to that point afterwards. What are mordants, what are fixers, and how that affects the quality of dye. But yeah, this is like a beautiful composition that I love a lot, and it reminds me of how natural colors can be fun, and it generates curiosity when you play with it. And what you see now is 2 years back, but when I look back into this composition now, of course it would be have faded in some parts of area, where the fastness would be low, and where the fastness would be of course higher, it would be remaining the same as it is, as if it is now. And these are few works that I've done before with natural dyeing, just to show you a glimpse of what all possibilities are there with natural colors when you keep on exploring it. So this one was my 4th year collection that I, done full, that I was doing full research of 4 months into natural dyeing of what all things can be done. So I was developing paints with natural dyes. So, converting those water dye baths into something that can be painted on fabric, because that was not available in India as such. Of course, it was available in foreign countries, but I was not knowing something as natural paints in India developed by a certain company. But afterwards, I got to know. So these all are explored with natural colors with different techniques like batik, then dip and dye technique. So you can see the gray colors have come from, there is a fruit called myrobalan. Myrobalan plus iron gives you black or gray tone. And if it is wherever you see pink, it's sappanwood, known as logwood. Wherever you see tones of yellow or a golden yellow, it's mix of pomegranate and kesuda. So these are like different tones that are responsible for different colors. And of course, when you mix and match it, it will create a different tones of colors. And these are different experiments and compositions that I've done on paper. So I was firstly exploring more on paper because I like to make art a lot. Of course, on fabric also I do, but for fabric, I purchase natural paints from a company because, for fabrics, the fastness level has to be much more as compared to on paper. Because fabric, you're washing it, you're wearing it again and again. So the fastness level has to be more. And whatever you choose to paint on the fabric has to be better quality and a better standardized version of it as compared to the paper one. So these were some paper experiments done with different pH levels. So you can see multiple range of colors because of different pH dips that I've done on soda, with soda ash, baking soda, vinegar, lemon. And In first picture, you can see different techniques. It is like, so I used to walk randomly in the park. So you can also do this practice whenever you go to a walk in the garden or whenever you walk somewhere in forest, just take a small notebook and, whatever you feel like this gives color, just rub it on your paper because so these two, the first picture, the first paper on it is rubbed with a leaf that was called, I think, it's a sweet potato leaf. So it was very tender and soft. So whenever you rub any leaf or any flower, just notice what quality is it? Is it soft? It is tender? Is it hard? So because that affects how you put it on the paper. Because if it is hard, if you rub it on the paper, it will not release color. So anything you rub it on paper or any surface, it requires to have a smooth friction. So it flows properly on the paper or any surface. So it releases the certain amount of color that you want. Then second was just spilling technique. I took a dye bath and just spill it over on a piece of paper and then just randomly was pouring other dye baths and creating the composition. Then third was just I dipped and dyed paper with different dye baths and I just did a collage of it. Fourth one was again playing with leaves like a crayon, playing with flowers like a crayon, or playing with soil that like a crayon. So it basically expands your mind of how much natural color has a possibility before moving to a much extensive thing. This is like a fun, eye-opening thing for people to just start over playing with natural colors with natural elements in your surroundings as a crayon, and knowing its vast array of colors it can lead to. But in natural colors, just keep in mind, don't think of anything as a end part that will always be, something good, or it will always be used for your certain purpose. It can be something experimental and might be not used in future. Because natural color, working with natural color is a journey. It's not a certain process that you're achieving. It's not that certain color you're achieving and that color you want to get it again. So always be in that mindset that, of course, certain color that you're getting right now might be you might not get in another point of time. So you have to be open when you work with natural pigments. And this one are certain works that I've explored, that I've created now, working in my brand of working with different natural pigments and creating art frames out of it. So first picture you can see is made from, so I do teach online workshops on how to make lake pigments and botanical inks out of, raw sources. Instead, so how you can convert your raw sources, like let's say if you want to convert that turmeric into a watercolor pigment, how to do that, what's the chemistry behind it. So I also teach that. You can ask me a question regarding that afterwards. So the first one was created with sappan wood, second one was mix of indigo, pomegranate, iron, third one was mix of indigo and pomegranate, and fourth one is a mix of another, it's a chemistry ball, mix of different colors. You can see a tinge of yellow, you can see tinge of golden, you can see purple, black, grays. So it's a mix, it's a play of moderns and different colors. And the down part is process of how the lake pigments are made, how you can convert any liquid dye to a pigment form and use it as a watercolor medium for your paper. I use mostly on paper, but it can be applicable on fabric, but you can't wash it multiple times. It will rub off from the fabric after multiple washes. So yeah. And these are few other experiments. Of course, it's like not a part of dyeing part, but it's a part of extraction of how to extract natural pigments out of a plant source. So one is you extract by boiling. First method is that. And before that, one more method is you do by stamping. So you take any plant source, you put it on the paper or fabric, you take a hammer and you just stamp it. So you get a color, because anything that involves friction on any surface, that releases heat on any surface, it grabs the color, it releases the color. So first technique is stamping, that is called pounding. Second technique is, of course, dyeing. You boil any certain raw source and you create a dye bath out of it. Third is eco printing. Eco printing is basically eco printing. The term relates, you are printing with a natural source. So you are extracting any impression from a natural leaf or a flower So you're boiling that certain leaf, or you're steaming that certain leaf to get a desired color that you want, or a desired impression you want. As you can see, there are different impressions of leaf on the last image. So you see it as a black outline or a black image because it was dipped in iron vat for longer duration of time. That's why it is black in color. In first three images, you would see a multiple like abstract combination because it was like a just randomly flooded different dye components, and just steamed it, rolled it, and steamed it over in a steamer for a longer duration of time. So this is like another method of extracting pigments from your natural sources. And these are furthermore techniques that are explored, like resist dyeing, and resist dyeing is also an interesting thing further. So let's stop here with the presentation. So now I'll just talk about, I was talking about moderns. Anyone is having any doubt as of now if you want to ask?
There was one question, Jagriti. I'll just read that out loud.
Yeah.
What type of sustainable containers do you use when doing your dyeing vats?
Okay. So don't use any reactable containers like copper, or let's say copper tin, anything that reacts with the dye. So use aluminum is perfect. Use any aluminum, or stainless steel is perfect. So use any two of the dye baths, and you can use glass. You can use glass that is high quality. That's not of low quality. If it breaks after a certain temperature. But yeah, stainless steel works great, or aluminum works great, because it's of course not reacting with the dye bath and the component. Because if you use copper, or if you use, let's say, any other types of metals or materials, it might react and change the tone of color. So that might affect it. So yeah, you can use plastic also, unless or until you're not boiling in that plastic container, but you're boiling in some other container, but transferring in that plastic container to store it or use it further for some time. So, yeah, then I'll move forward. So further moving on to different terminologies. So different terminologies are like moderns. I talked about moderns, how moderns affect. So moderns are something, I would say it's like a glue between your dye and a fabric. So you take a piece of fabric and you have a dye. Now in center, what is that binding element that keeps both of them intact is mordant. So mordant are of different types. So it's one mordant is alum. In Hindi, it's called fitkari. It's also used in different households for cleaning water. It's the word is mordant, MODRANT. I think Akansha can write the spelling of, yeah. So mordants acts like a glue. So one is alum, second is iron, and people also use this soy milk as a mordant. So many people in foreign countries, they I've seen they use soy milk a lot. So let's say if now there are different types of fabrics. There is cellulosic fabric, there are plant-based fabric, there are animal-based animal fibers. Now, if you're using cotton or linen, you have cotton and linen don't tend to give that much bright color as compared to silk because of its fabric composition. So let's say if you want to convert your cotton into a more plant-based thing, people modern it in soy milk to make it more, so the color comes more brighter, to make it like a more plant fiber and a cellulose. So it's something in between. So that's why people use soy milk as a mordant, but not the store-bought soy milk, but soy milk making it, from scratch. So you're taking the soybeans, soaking it, grinding it, and then extracting the soy milk from that, and then using it. So it's like a tedious process, and then you dye it. But it sometimes gives a beautiful range of color, and it's like worth experimenting and exploring. But alum and iron are the basic sources that is easily available from in your surroundings, and that you can experiment and work on anytime. So alum is most easily available resource, and it was the first, and it was practiced from historical times. It was used from historical times, alum, because it's the most easiest one to use, and it's not harmful for your skin, or it's not, if you use it in larger quantities also, it might not harm the water bodies or the ecosystem. But let's say if iron, if you're using for larger quantities, it might damage your skin because it's, it's corrosive in nature. It might bring scratch on your skin. So with iron, if you use it in lesser quantities, let's say you use it 3% or 4% of it, depending on the weight of fabric, it will not damage the fabric because iron might damage the fabric sometime. But as say, alum will not damage your fabric. Then comes pH. So I'm talking both in the sense of paper and fabric. So you can ask me doubts like afterwards if you have in terms of paper or in terms of fabric, whatever you're willing to explore on. Next is pH effect. So when I talk about pH, there are different types of pH. You would be learned in school during your school days, acid, base, and alkaline nature. So there are different types of pH, like lemon, vinegar, baking soda, iron. So they have different pH. Some are acidic in nature, some are basic in nature, some are alkaline in nature. So accordingly, it affects your fabric color. So let's say if you want to create a palette of shades of color, you always dip it in different pH. You always dip it in different pH, different dye baths of pH. Let's say you're dipping it in baking soda, you're dipping it in iron, you're dipping it in lemon. So each dip will give you a different color. So for turmeric, let's say if you want 4 more shades of turmeric, you dip it in different dye baths, you get different shades of turmeric. And then further, you test the fastness of it, and then you use it in your project accordingly, or you use it further experiment on it accordingly. Accordingly, there are different, as I talk about the different fiber types, there are different fiber types and it absorbs differently. For fabric, for paper, there are different GSM qualities. Let's say and there are different types of paper like cartridge sheet, there are watercolor paper, there is handmade paper. And nowadays, of course, there's a lot of paper in the market coming, like eucalyptus paper, rose paper, then elephant poo paper. It's like a lot of endless varieties. But you can start with basic of, if you're using watercolor paper, try using acid-free watercolor paper and not using those synthetic coated watercolor paper, because that might not allow your natural dye to penetrate and it will repel. So anything that has a synthetic coating. So if you're using natural dyes on synthetic fiber, it will not attract it. It will repel it because it is not having that quality of bonding with the fiber, because it is not meant to be friends. They are like enemies. They'll not bind together. However, you try to do that, it will not last for longer time. So it's important to choose right type of fabrics and right type of paper when working with natural dyes to yield better colors. Because when you practice it, some people might tell that my color is not coming bright. It might be you may not have done process for correct duration of time, or the fabric or the paper might not be of good quality. That might be the thing. So what colors work best on hemp is a beautiful fabric. Hemp absorbs the color very nicely. So anything like onion skins are best source of color. You can try onion skins. Turmeric also will absorb. Then you can go with coffee grounds. Other than kitchen, if you want to explore, go with marigolds, go with madder, go with indigo. So anything works on hemp. So on hemp, on silk, you can try on any dye bars, but on cotton, some colors might not give you same amount of results as it shows on silk or on any other fiber, let's say. So that you should always create a sample for yourself to whenever you are working on a project for yourself and to further work on in future. You can always create sample of different fibers and different papers of what you want to use and what you don't want to use. So yeah, the third thing was fiber type, and fourth is color fastness. I talked about color fastness. So alum, so mordants are responsible for making your colors fast on the fabric. Or so if I talk about paper also you can mordant it in alum, but not for longer duration of time. So let's say if I talk about the process of how the timing works of mordanting and dyeing, let's say if you're taking a piece of fabric, if let's say it's 1 meter of fabric, you can measure the fabric in the weighing scale, whatever grams of fabric the weight is coming, let's say it's 200 grams. Alum, you will always take 10 to 20%. 10% is okay, but if you can also increase, you can increase to 20%, that's okay, because anyway, it will not damage the fabric. If you are dipping it in iron is always 2 to 3% or 3 to 4%, mordanting it in iron. And soy milk, there's no percentage as such. You can always see how much, the quantity of milk is required for dipping that fabric and just rotating it continuously. That much quantity is enough. And you can always store soy milk in the fridge so it does not get damaged, but use it within 2-3 days. Otherwise, it will, stink a lot and it'll just stink all over the place. So you can always keep it in fridge. You can use it 2-3 days and then just emit it out. So the beauty of natural dyes, working with natural colors, is you can emit it in your garden. It will not damage your soil. It will cultivate, it will nourish your soil. Any dye bath, be it, but don't emit iron dye bath. Be sure with that because iron will damage your soil. Iron you can always dilute with water, large amounts of water, and then emit it in the soil. Then it will not damage the soil composition. So some dye baths which are strong in nature, that you can always dilute it and then emit it in the in your garden or wherever you want to emit it, because it acts as a beautiful generative component for your soil and for your ecosystem that will cultivate your garden. So yeah, so I was talking about the process. So the percentage I've talked about of mordant, alum 10 to 20%, iron 3 to 4% or 2 to 3%, soy meal depending on the fabric type. And the water, let's say if you are, so whatever materials you're using, let's say if you're using onion skins or if you're using turmeric, you can always measure the quantity of dye bath and the water quantity. Just see if the material is not, just getting diluted completely in the water. There is some space. There is some equal space of water and some equal space of dye bath. So, because basically you want to prepare a tea. You want to prepare a dye bath tea. So you have to create your concentrate accordingly. You can't add much of water because it will reduce your concentration of dye. So water should be that much of how much your, dye bath can be, your dye particles can be submerged in that water. So accordingly, you can adjust the water quantity depending on the dye material you are having and depending on the shade you want. So let's say you're taking your water 1:2. So 1 ratio is water and 2 ratio is dye plant. So always the dye plant is more in ratio as compared to water. You can keep that in note because you want your concentrate to be stronger. You don't want it to be diluted. Until or unless you want a light color, then it's fine. But always try to prepare a concentrate of a dye bath and then start diluting it. Don't prepare a diluted version and then start, making it more diluted version of it. Always make a very concentrated version of it, and then try to make different dye baths out of it. Let's you're making a lighter shade, a warmer shade, a more lighter shade out of it. That is much more better way to go. So yeah, this was about different terminologies. And a quick thing is, so all these dye components, they have a beautiful term called tannins. So tannins are responsible for, releasing color and holding that color bond to your fabric. So tannins is a term that is present in onion skins, that is present in walnut, that is present in pomegranate. So these these dye sources that I'm talking about, they have a very strong fastness level. They'll last in a fabric for very longer time because they have tannins in them, because they have this term called tannins. It's basically something that helps bond with the fabric very closely and it just sticks to the fabric. So yeah, this was about, so I'll just show you some, demo of, wait a minute.
We have a question, Jagrati. Let
Yeah.
me just. Hi, Estora, could you please tell me the word you're looking for?
I think tannins she's talking about just right.
Okay, cool.
So I think you can see my screen. I think you can pin the screen if you want. Just you can see my screen clearly, right?
Yes, yes. It's a
So here I've taken three basically divers. One is turmeric, one is paprika, and one is coffee grounds. So these three are there, and I'm having few rose petals. So few rose petals I just got from a small temple in house. And I have lemon as my mordant here, and I have baking soda. So you can use baking soda or you can use soda ash also. Anything works, whatever, whatever is available in your area, because both works equally in changing of pH and in changing of terms. Don't, are you able to see the yellow color or orange color here in the fabric?
Yes. Yes.
So you might see a lighter tone here and a darker tone here. So
Correct.
the lighter tone is done by putting lemon on the turmeric dye bath. So it gives a very beautiful light yellow. And the orange tone that you're seeing is done by dipping it in the baking soda. So currently I'll be showing you how you handle your fabric when you dye your certain piece of fabric. So this I'm showing you in a small piece of fabric, but when you do a bigger piece of fabric, you also always have to rotate your fabric. Keep rotating your fabric. Don't leave the fabric in the dye bath. So let's say if I'm doing it in this dye bath, and always wet your fabric before dyeing it. So I've always, just damped the fabric before I'm proceeding here, because wetting your dye bath, wetting your fabric is important, because anything that is wet will absorb the color more properly as compared to anything that is dry. So always wet your fabric prior to moving into any dye process. So like I'm holding this small piece of fabric like this with 2 fingers. So it is straight, and I'm just not, just not dumping it in the water. Because if you just dump it in the water, it will create creases, and it'll just add particles in your fabric, which will turn into patches after a certain amount of time. So in this, I'll just dip it for, let's say, 1 minute, and then I'll leave it for some time. And after that, I'll just rinse it with normal water, leave it for 1 day, and then you can just wash it with liquid detergent and then use it. But when you're doing it with bigger fabric, always dye it for 15 to 20 minutes, max to max 30 minutes. So that is the duration of time you have to follow for your proper dyeing. So this is the color that is coming from paprika. Now you're seeing a brighter color. So don't, in natural colors, don't assume the color in a first go if it is showing you a bright tone, because nature will give you a happy face in the starting, but at last it might turn into a sad face also. So always be, open to that. Like if it is bright color now, it might change into something paler, or it might change into something brighter also. So anything can happen. So always wait for the result at end, not at the starting. So this is coffee. So you might see a good brown tone now, but when you wash it after some time, it will change into a lighter tone. So if you want to make this darker, you can always, as I told, you can always play with iron. So alum is responsible for making colors brighter. Iron is responsible for making colors darker. And soy milk is also responsible for making colors brighter. So these are 3 mordants that I talked about. You have to mordant it before moving into your dye process. So accordingly, whatever result you want, if you want anything to be darker, mordant it in iron and then move into your dye bath. If you want anything to be lighter or brighter in terms, you can always mordant it with soy milk or alum and then move into your dyeing process. For alum and iron, do you need to wear gloves? For iron, you can wear gloves, but for alum, not necessarily, because alum is not, irritating for your skin, but iron might be, because as it might be some skin might be sensitive. So I do not wear generally, but I would prefer, suggest people to wear it, because some people might have sensitive skin. So it will be better to always be cautious on whatever you use. In soy milk also, not necessarily to wear gloves. Only iron you're required to wear gloves. So like these are 3 different. So when you dye your bigger fabric, so let's say assume this is your bigger meter of fabric. So always hold it either horizontally or either vertically, and always keep rotating it like this, because you want your fabric to be dyed from all the sides, because your fabric has different weaves. It has warp and it has weft. So you want your fabric, it absorb the dye in whole piece of fabric, whole piece of fabric that's there. So start by dipping it like this or dipping it like this. Let's say you're dipping it like this for 5 minutes, rotate it, dip it again for 5 minutes, then rotate it, dip it again for 5 minutes. And that's how you complete your 15 to 20 minutes, or let's say half an hour, depending on the shade of color you want. So yeah, this was the dyeing process of how you will, adjust your fabric according to your dyeing needs and according to your shade needs. And pH, after you have done your dyeing, after you've completed your mordanting, your dyeing, start with the pH change. Now you go with your pH change. You add lemon. I want this shade. Now it's that. I want darker shade. I add iron drops. Either dip the fabric if you want everything to be in that dark shade. If you want certain areas, you can always use brush and play with patterns. Draw a small flower, draw stripes, draw grids, can always play with patterns. Now here comes a point, dye bars are very liquid in nature. They might spread or they might bleed. So here you can use Arabic gum. Arabic gum is comes as a gum powder and also as a crystal. It is used to thicken your any dye bath if you want to use it as a paint, if you want to paint with it. So let's say I've prepared my turmeric dye bath, and if you want to thicken it a little bit, you can always you can always add a pinch of powder. So always start by pinch of powder of arabicum. Don't use a teaspoon or a tablespoon. Start by your fingers. Take a pinch of arabic gum, just sprinkle it in your dye bath, and use an electric blender and just blend it over. And it'll after leave it for 10 minutes, it will become thickened. And then you can use it for painting. So it will create a better consistency as compared to your normal, dye bath. If you paint with a dye bath, it might bleed. And if you paint with a certain consistency, a thicker consistency of it, it might not bleed as that much as it was bleeding before. And you can increase your Arabic gum powder consistency depending on how much thickness you want. Start by pinch, move into 2 pinch, 3 pinch, 4 pinch, how much you want your consistency to be. So you can move likewise depending on your flow of paint you want, or depending on the painting style you want to be done. So yeah, this was about natural dyeing and about this journey. Now I'm open to questions, and then I'll move on accordingly, according to the questions you have. So anyone can unmute themselves or write in the comments, and then I'll just reply it.
Actually, I do have one question.
Yeah.
How this can be industrialized? I mean, how can we help this to be more, people use more this in the industry?
So many people are working towards, many companies are working towards of using it in industry level. So the company where I was working on, I was doing my job. So their focus is into making it commercialized and industrialized in a more huge way. So the company name is Kalarashram Foundation. I think Akansha can type. It's COLOR Ashram Foundation. Is based in Mysore. You can look over it. So they have standardized their pigments and dyes, and they have created a shade card for natural colors. So you can repeat that shade cards for every time and anytime you want. Of course, a bit difference would come, but not so much, because they're dealing with exposed, they're dealing with multiple brands and people. And they have worked 20 years in this to achieve a patent in natural dyes and to achieve a standardized version in natural dyes. So there are companies working in that, because it requires a lot of research. It's not a one-man thing. It requires a team to work on that, and it requires a research lab to work on something to be standardized and something to make it usable in a industry way, or usable in a further, where people can use it, multiple people can use it and promote it. So this is one company, and there are other companies which are working with algae, which are working with mushrooms, and I think there are research happening on of extracting colors, natural colors from mushrooms and algae. So yeah.
Have another question, Jagruti.
Yeah.
Which iron is used and where is it available?
So iron, can you repeat your question once?
Yeah, which iron is used and where
Mhm.
exactly is that available?
So iron is rust iron. So one is you can purchase rust iron from Amazon. It's easily available. Just type rust iron powder. So that's available. Otherwise, you can create your iron vat. So I can share you the process with Pooja or Akansha. They can share it further. It's a bit longer process. It takes, I think, weeks to get that iron vat prepared. It's mix of jaggery. It's a mix of iron nails. So create a vat. You add junk, rusted iron nails. You add jaggery. You add vinegar. You add water, and then just store it and make your own iron dye bath. So that is one thing. That's a tedious technique. But other than that, you can just purchase rust iron and just use that powder form of it. So you can always use that powder, dilute it in the water for your dyeing purposes as 2-3%, and then use it in your dye process.
We have one more question.
Yeah.
How long do natural dyes last on fabrics? It's a tricky one.
So natural dyes, of course, it will not stay completely permanent, but depending on what dye component you're using, let's say if you're using indigo and if you're using pomegranate, like certain dye sources that last for longer time, and how you wash care of it, how you care for it, that's really important because you dye it properly. You have, dyed it beautifully in a piece of fabric, but if you're not caring it in a better way. So first thing is dyeing. So let's say you're using, so the best dye sources are pomegranate, madder roots, indigo, like from my experience and from my practice, what I've done. So yeah, onion skins, then walnut hulls, so walnut ke, the skins of walnuts that are left after, eating those walnuts. The walnut hulls have really great source of color. So these are few sources that tend to give much more fast color and they last for many years if taken care for longer time. Second is wash care. Don't wash your fabric with detergent powders because it has harmful chemicals and it will damage your fabric and it will just bleed off your color for a longer period of time. So always use easy or gentle is best. But if you're using natural detergents from soap nut, that is great. That is perfect. But if it is not possible for you to use soap nuts as a natural detergent for your fabrics to wash, always prefer liquid detergents and don't go with powder detergents. And always dry your fabric inside out. Don't put it straight. And it's better to hang it instead of pinning it up in your, just pinning in your rope. So just hang it in a hanger and then put it in a shade, don't put it in a harsh sunlight. That might also damage the fabric. And third is iron it inside out. Don't tan it straight on the, straightly on the fabrics. These are few things to take care of after the dyeing process. And these are post and pre. I would talk about your mordanting should be really great. Mordant it for 30 minutes. You can increase it for 1 hour because you want your fabric to be bonded with the color very properly and firmly. So pre-process is mordanting. And before mordanting, I just forgot, whenever you purchase your fabric from shop, it has certain chemicals. It has bleach attached to it. So you have to wash your fabric with a detergent very properly to remove all those chemicals and the coat of bleach, whatever is there in the surface of fabric to make it absorb the dye bath and mordant it properly. So first, pre-process is important and the post-process is important and the middle dye bath, whatever you're dyeing it is important. I think it answers your question. Any more questions?
Hey guys, do we have any more questions? Please feel free to mute yourself or you can also drop your question in the chat box. I think we can continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you can always ask me any questions if now or if you can, put me an email. Okay, one question is raspberries. Raspberries are not right. I think in Hindi, shahtut and raspberries are different, right? I think Akansha.
Yeah, I think yes. There are
Yeah,
two different things. Yeah.
it's different, yeah.
Yeah.
So, shahdud is mulberry, yeah. Mulberry gives beautiful color. So yeah, raspberries have not tried. So raspberries have not. You can try and let us know how raspberries tend to give color, because there are a lot of sources in nature. And it might be I've not tried everything because I've tried certain things. Because mostly berries are stains. They're not always dye sources.
Yeah.
So these whatever berries you're using, better to use for paper and not for fabric because it will not last for longer time. However, when you modern it will not last for longer time. It will stay, let's say, it will last for 1 year or 6 months or more than that, a little bit more than that. So it's better to use it for paper, the berries and everything.
Do we have any more questions, guys?
It seems that
No, I think we can
no,
continue.
no. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a thing. So always like be free to explore with natural colors and have your own swatch book if you're moving into the field of natural dyes. Create your own swatch, like a booklet of it or just a random sheet of it, of fabrics and of paper, whatever you're willing to explore in your field. If you're an artist working with mixed media, you can explore on terracotta, on paper, on whatever material you want to use. You can always try on ceramics, terracotta after you've finished your basics understanding of working on basic fabric and basic paper. You can move on to other materials. And indigo as a color can be used in multiple surfaces. Because it's a different, and indigo is different from any other natural source because indigo you don't boil it. Indigo you ferment it. It's a plant, you ferment it. From fermentation the powder is created. There is an oxidation process happening. So different chemistry altogether for indigo that is not same as for different dye sources like pomegranate or berries or turmeric. So indigo is another class altogether. It's like another spectrum altogether to delve into and to work into. And many people take their whole journey to only learn about indigo and play with indigo because it always creates magic and creates a smile on your face when you create something out of it. So yeah, so indigo is something that's a different way to explore on. So don't compare it with another, don't compare or mix it with any other techniques or any other dye sources that I've told you about. So yes.
Thank you, Jaguars. It was amazing. Personally,
Thank
I
you.
learned a lot. And thank you all for joining us. Please stay tuned in our socials. We're going to have a takeaways post about this workshop. And thanks Akanshka for taking care of the chats. And that was amazing. I learned a lot.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
Ada, and thank you so much to you, Jagruti, for taking your time and giving us so many insights into the world of natural dyeing. Guys, if you want to check out her ebook, it's up on our website. Kindly do so. And feel free to experiment and get back to us with whatever results you have. We'd love to see your pictures on natural dyeing. And I will be sharing the link for her ebook right over here in the chat box. But you can also find it on our website. So I'm doing that right away.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions? This is an ebook.
Thank you, Akanshka.
Such a colorful ebook, Jagruti. As a
Thank you so
design
much.
student, so like impressed. I love looking at different colors, and I have tried dyeing with pomegranate. And like you said, initially when I dyed it on the fabric, it was pinkish in color, but then slowly after a couple of months, it started turning yellow. Now
Yeah.
I'd say it's more of a mustard than pink, so it's definitely not the kind of pink I was expecting, but I did not know when I dyed. It's
And I
very
think, yeah, one dye material I forget about is avocado pits. If anyone in any geographical area it's available, it's great source for dyeing. So in India, of course,
I
it's
think one
expensive.
person had asked this question before actually about
Okay.
avocados. Yeah.
So avocado is great source. It gives a beautiful range of colors. And India is expensive, so many people don't use it. But in many other parts of countries, it's available, so they use it a lot.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, we can end this call. And again, thank Jagrati for this wonderful workshop. It was amazing.
Thank you, Ed and Akansha and Pooja.
so much. Guys, you can also check out our Instagram for more updates. Here we go. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And kindly check out her ebook. It's an incredible book, and it's so interactive as well. It's not just, paragraphs of information. She has added so many wonderful images there. And we will be sharing the recording of the session. So if you haven't been able to understand a couple of things, or maybe you need to pause and try it out and then maybe play the video again, you will be able to do that. We will be sharing the recording of the session in a couple of hours.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, everyone.
Okay. Bye.